Look at this hood. Top side looks dead, flat, dry, faded, almost like the color got erased. Now watch this. One wipe with a cheap liquid, one microfiber pass, and the color comes back deep, dark, and glossy like the paint just woke up. No repaint, no machine polish, no expensive ceramic kit, just a $3 liquid almost nobody talks about anymore. And the crazy part is how fast it works. Most people think faded paint means the finish is gone for good. It's not. A lot of the time the top layer is just cooked, dry, and oxidized. And once you feed that surface the right way, the color snaps back hard. Have you ever dealt with paint like this on your own car? Comment yes or no before we do the full panel. And if you like simple fixes that actually save money, hit subscribe. I test these so you don't waste cash chasing junk. Here's the problem. This hood has classic sun death. The clear surface looks chalky. The color looks washed out. Water doesn't sheet clean. Light hits it, and the whole thing looks tired. This is exactly the kind of paint most owners give up on too early. They see fading and assume the only answer is a full respray. That's where they get trapped, because before you spend hundreds or thousands, there's one fast test that tells you whether the color is still hiding underneath that dead top layer. And this is it. The liquid we're using is boiled linseed oil, cheap, easy to find, and brutally effective at bringing life back to oxidized paint for a fast visual reset. Most people never hear about it because it's simple, old school, and doesn't make anyone big money. But here's the surprising part. If the paint still has material left, this stuff transforms it in seconds. Let's do it. First, the panel has to be clean, not showroom clean, just free of dust, grit, and loose dirt, so you're not grinding trash into the surface. Quick rinse, basic wash, dry towel, done. No 10-step prep, no waiting around, straight to action. Now take a clean microfiber towel, not soaking wet, not dripping, just enough boiled linseed oil on the towel to spread a thin, even film. That's where most people get this wrong. They flood the panel. Don't. A light coat wins here. Start at the dead section and wipe in slow overlapping passes. And watch the paint. The second the oil hits that faded surface, the color starts returning. Black starts looking black again. Red gets depth. Blue stops looking dusty. Even older metallic paint starts catching light instead of swallowing it. This is the payoff right here. Half the hood looks abandoned. The other half suddenly looks alive. And that's exactly why this trick stops people in their tracks. You don't need a speech to explain it. The panel tells the whole story. Let's hit the rest of this section. Thin coat, even spread, no pressure, no scrubbing. Just wipe it on and let the surface drink it in. Now take a second clean towel and buff off the excess. That step matters. If you leave it greasy, it looks sloppy. If you level it out, it looks finished. And now look at the reflection. Before, the hood scattered light everywhere. Now it's actually reflecting shape again. Clouds show up, edges sharpen, color deepens. This is why the result needs to come first. Because once people see that dead paint turn rich again, they instantly understand the value. Here's the fast explanation. Oxidized paint loses oils, depth, and visual richness at the surface. That top layer gets dry and porous, so light stops reflecting cleanly. Instead of seeing color, you see chalk. Boiled linseed oil changes that fast. It saturates that tired outer layer, darkens the finish, and restores visual depth so the paint looks dramatically healthier almost immediately. Simple. Dead-looking surface in, richer-looking finish out. And if you're staring at a faded hood, roof, trunk lid, or old work truck right now, this is exactly the kind of low-cost move that makes a huge difference before you do anything expensive. But don't click away yet, because the next part is where most people ruin the result. The amount matters. The first instinct is always more product. Wrong. A heavy coat doesn't look better. It looks oily, streaky, and fake. A thin application is what gives you that clean, revived finish instead of a greasy mess. So we're doing another pass to show the difference. This side gets overloaded. You can already see it sitting on top. Too wet, too shiny in the wrong way. No definition. Now compare it to the properly buffed section. That one looks like paint. The overloaded section looks like something was smeared onto it. That's why this works best when you treat it like a finish restorer, not a soaking treatment. Light on, buff off, move on. Now let's take it one step further. We're moving from the hood to the upper fender, where the fade is even worse. This area is brutal. The sun cooks these edges harder than flat center panels. And that's where a lot of cars start looking old first. Same process. Clean towel, small amount, slow wipe. And watch the transition line. This is the kind of change that keeps people watching because it feels instant. No machine noise, no compound dust, no giant setup, just a dead panel turning dark again in real time. That's the hook inside the video. Every new section proves the last one wasn't a fluke. The fender now matches the revived hood. The front end starts looking complete again. And once one panel wakes up, you stop seeing old car. You start seeing color. That matters. Because most ugly paint isn't ugly because of the paint code. It's ugly because oxidation kills the depth. Bring back the depth, and the whole vehicle reads differently. Now let's talk about where this shines. Old single-stage paint, sun-faded daily drivers, farm trucks, project cars, cheap flip cars, vehicles sitting outside for years. This trick is gold when the finish looks tired, but you need a fast, visible comeback. And that's why it keeps surviving in garages, even though almost nobody talks about it in modern detailing circles. It works fast. That's what makes it powerful. But here's the open loop you need to stay for. What happens after the first day? Does it still look good after the wipe down, or does it fade right back out? We'll get to that. First, I want to show you the full panel difference in one clean walk-around. Start at the untouched section. Dry, lifeless, no richness, no reflection. Now pan across the restored section. Darker tone, stronger gloss, smoother visual texture, sharper reflections. That difference is not subtle. It changes the entire presence of the vehicle. Even if the body has dents, age, or miles, revived paint makes the whole car look cared for again. And that's the real win, not perfection. Improvement you can see from 10 feet away. That's what turns a sad-looking car into something respectable in under an hour. Now let's lock in the explanation one more time. Quick and clean. This is not magic. This is not a respray. This is not rebuilding missing clear coat. This is reviving what's still there. That's why it works so well when the paint is faded, dry, and oxidized instead of deeply peeling or completely failing. Most people skip that distinction and waste money. They attack everything the same way. They either do nothing or they overspend. This sits right in the middle. Fast, cheap, visible. And that makes it one of the highest impact, low-cost paint tricks you can use. Now here's the part almost nobody tells you. Preparation before the wipe is simple, but protection after the wipe is what stretches the result. Once the oil has revived the look, you don't leave the panel exposed and forget it. You lock it in. That's where a lot of people lose the finish they just brought back. But before we seal anything, look at this close-up. You can literally see the before and after line around the applicator path. One side is dusty gray, the other side has depth, warmth, and shine. That's why this video works. The transformation is immediate, the solution is cheap, and the result hits early. Watch what happens next when we tighten the finish and make the revived paint look even cleaner. Now we seal the win. Once the boiled linseed oil has been applied thin and buffed clean, the panel already looks dramatically better. But if you want that restored look to stay cleaner and hold stronger, you finish with a simple wax or paint sealant over the top after the surface settles. That step is what turns a quick revival into a smarter one. Most people stop too early. They get the color back, admire the gloss, and leave the panel unprotected. Then dust sticks. Sun hits it again. The surface starts drying back out. That's the mistake. Revive first, protect second. That sequence changes everything. And this is where the whole car starts making sense. Because once the hood, fender, and upper panel line are revived, the dead look disappears from the front end. The vehicle doesn't need to be new to look strong. It needs contrast, depth, and even tone. That's what this gives you. Now let's talk about the biggest fear people have with cheap paint tricks. They think a low-cost fix always looks fake. Not this one, if you apply it right. Here's the rule. Use less than you think. Spread it evenly. Buff until the surface feels finished, not slick. That last step separates a real improvement from a greasy shortcut, and the camera proves it. When the panel is done right, reflections look cleaner, body lines show up harder, the color looks fuller instead of just wetter. That's the difference between shine and richness. Anyone can make a panel look wet for 5 minutes. The goal is to make it look restored. Now let's answer the question from earlier. What happens after day 1? Here's the truth that matters for the viewer. This is a revival move, not a miracle repaint. It gives you a powerful cosmetic reset fast, and when you maintain it properly, the car keeps looking far better than it did in that dead oxidized state. That makes it perfect for people who want results now, before a sale, before a meetup, before listing a truck, before spending real money, before deciding whether the paint is worth deeper correction. This is the fastest way to see what your finish still has left. And that alone is huge, because once you bring the color back, you can make a smart next move. Maybe the car already looks good enough and you stop there. Maybe you protect it and keep driving. Maybe you decide it's worth polishing later because now the paint actually has life worth saving. That's why this $3 liquid is so useful. It reveals potential. It shows you the paint underneath the oxidation story. And that's the part people miss. They don't actually hate their paint. They hate what oxidation did to it. Remove the dead look, and suddenly the whole vehicle changes. Now let's tighten up the method so nobody messes this up. Step 1. Wash and dry the panel. Step 2. Apply a very small amount of boiled linseed oil to a microfiber towel. Step 3. Wipe a thin coat across the faded paint in overlapping passes. Step 4. Let it level briefly, then buff off all excess with a second clean towel. Step 5. After it settles, protect the surface with wax or sealant. That's it. No long routine, no expensive tools, no special training. And that simplicity is exactly why this deserves more attention than it gets. But here's another thing people get wrong. They try this on paint that is already beyond revival. If the clear coat is peeling off in sheets, the surface is flaking badly, or the finish is physically gone, no wipe-on trick is bringing that back. This method wins when the paint is faded and oxidized, not when the material has already left the panel. That's an important distinction because it saves time. Use this where the finish looks dead, not destroyed. On the right surface, the result is immediate, and you've already seen it here. This hood started chalky, flat, and tired. Now it looks darker, cleaner, and dramatically closer to a healthy finish. The transformation is strong enough that even trim glass reflections and body lines look better around it. That's what revived paint does. It lifts the whole vehicle visually. Now let's reinforce the proof. Walk around the car one more time. Front corner first. The fender has depth again. Move across the hood. The color now carries evenly instead of fading out in patches. Hit the angle from the side. Instead of a cloudy panel, you get a surface that actually catches light. That one change makes the car look newer, cleaner, and more valuable. That's why this trick matters. Not because it's fancy, because it works where people need it most. Old paint, tight budget, fast turnaround, visible result. And for a survival-minded channel, that matters even more. You don't always need the ideal solution. You need the move that gets the biggest result with the least money and the least friction. This is that move. Cheap liquid, simple application, strong comeback. That's the whole spirit of this fix. Use what works. Skip what wastes time. Get the result. Now imagine this on an old truck that sits outside all year. Imagine it on a work car you thought was too far gone. Imagine hitting a faded hood before selling the vehicle and changing the first impression instantly. That's real value, because buyers react with their eyes first. Neighbors react with their eyes first. You react with your eyes first. And when the paint stops looking dead, the whole story changes. But here's the surprising part. This kind of improvement also changes how you treat the vehicle after. Once it looks better, people clean it more. They protect it more. They maintain it more. A fast, visible win creates momentum. That's why simple restorations matter so much. They pull neglected things back into use. And that fits this channel perfectly. Roots of Survival isn't about throwing money at every problem. It's about finding the practical edge, the move that gets the job done, the trick that keeps something alive longer. This paint fix does exactly that. Now, if you want the strongest finish possible, do the wipe correctly, buff it clean, and seal it after. That gives the revived panel a cleaner, more complete look and helps hold the result instead of leaving it exposed. Again, not complicated, just smart, and smart beats expensive more often than people think. So let's close this out with the full before and after. Before, sun-faded, chalky, washed out, zero energy. After, deep color, clean gloss, stronger reflection, far more factory-looking from normal viewing distance. That's a massive turnaround from a bottle that costs less than a fast food drink. And that is exactly why this trick keeps getting passed around by people who actually work on old vehicles. Because when something this cheap creates a result this visible, it earns its place. If your paint looks dead, start here. Test one small section, wipe it, buff it, watch the color return. Once you see that first strip come back to life, you'll know immediately what the rest of the vehicle can become. That's the takeaway. You do not need to accept faded paint at first glance. You can restore the look fast, cheaply, and with almost no setup using the right liquid and the right method. That's the win. Dead-looking paint back to a rich, factory-style finish for about $3 and a few minutes of work. If you want more fixes that bring old gear back fast, check the next video.